welcome to the Castle Handmade Crochet podcast. My name is Liz and I am coming to you from the Southern Highlands of New South Wales, located in Australia. So welcome. This is episode 3, which is very exciting. I actually didn't think that episode 1 would ever get posted on YouTube, and I'm up to recording episode 3. So thank you for those that have watched the first couple of episodes and have commented and encouraged me to keep going. And if you're just joining in for the first time, thank you also. I hope you enjoy what you hear and see. This is actually like it could be about third or fourth take now of this podcast. I recorded the whole, a whole session yesterday. But then I realized once I watched it back that there was too much background noise because I recorded whilst it was pouring rain. If you are in Australia, you'd know that New South Wales and Queensland are getting lots and lots of rain at the moment. There are areas that are severely affected by flooding. Fortunately, where I am, we are not affected by the flooding, but we are getting lots and lots of rain. So there's a break in the rain today and I can actually see a little bit of sunshine outside. So I thought I'd have a go at recording this again so that the sound quality is much better. So here we go. I'm still really nervous about doing all of this. As you can tell, I am not comfortable at all with sitting in front of a camera, and to sit in front of a camera talking to yourself is really strange. So I'm hoping that I can just ease the nerves and be a little bit more relaxed, because that's what I enjoy watching. I enjoy watching podcasters that are really relaxed and you actually feel like you are there with them and they are just speaking to you. So that's my goal, and I think it's only going to get easier if I continue to have a go at it. So that's why we are at episode 3. Now, this podcast is about everything crochet. So it's mostly about what I am making and what projects I want to start working on. And then depending on how interested you are, I'm also happy to talk about different, tools and supplies that I'm using. And anything else you'd like to know as well. I'm a crochet teacher and designer, and I also sell crochet supplies. So I have an online store selling lots of different wools and things. So I'm happy to talk about whatever it is that you're interested in. But I mostly made this podcast, started to make it just so I could share my process of making and how I make decisions about things and choosing patterns and yarns. And so let's get started with finished items. I have 2 finished items to show you this week, and I'll start with this one. So this is my little finished sleepy teddy bear Lovey. Hopefully you can see that okay. So in one of the other episodes, I showed you this in pieces. I had finished all the pieces a couple of weeks ago, and I've just been resisting putting it together. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it and it's really cute, really happy with how it's worked out. So if you're not familiar with a Lovey, basically it's the combination of toy and snuggly blanket for babies or toddlers to have. So this one is a square, so hopefully you can see that okay. But you work up the square and then you make like head and arms of a toy and you connect them together. So for this one I've used cotton, which means that it feels really nice, and if the baby pops it in its mouth then it's going to be fine because it hasn't got lots of fibres coming off it. It should also wash really well. For me, I was just resisting sewing it together because it can be the fiddly bit, and I often crochet at the end of the day when I just want to sit down on the lounge and relax. And sewing it together, I actually wanted to sit at a table and get it right and do it in good daylight. And so I just had to set aside some time to put it together, but I'm really happy with how he's come up. So often people find the hardest part of doing toys the sewing together. A little tip that I shared on my social media this week was that when I go to put toys together and I need to attach pieces together, I use T-pins instead of regular pins or sewing pins, so that the T-pin holds it in place before I begin hand stitching it on. So I find the position I want to pop the piece in, and then I'll put a couple of T-pins in to hold it in place, and then I can start sewing it. Now, if you're not familiar with T-pins, they're usually used for blocking garments and items, and they've got a thicker like shaft on them, and then they've got a T at the top. The T is really great because it means that the pin's not going to slip into the toy and get lost, and the T-pins are thicker than a sewing pin, so they are sturdier and stronger and hold up better. So that's my little tip. If you're joining pieces of toys together, then use T-pins to hold them in place while you sew them. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about this guy. I'll leave a link down below to the pattern so that you can find it. I purchased it on Etsy. I'll also leave a link to the yarns that I used for this one. But I think I'm going to make a couple more because they're really cute. You can make them with, like there's lots of patterns available with different animal heads on them. So not just teddy bears, but lots of other animals. So I might even have a go at doing something else. But that was lots of fun, and that's going to be gifted to a little baby very soon. So that was really cute. And another little baby item for my second finished item. Last week I mentioned to you that I wanted to make some socks, and I was going to have a go at the Harlow cable socks. It was a pattern by Lakeside Loops that I'd already purchased years ago, and here are the socks. So this was a start to finish project between podcasts, and they worked up really quickly. I had a few doctor's appointments and things to attend over the last couple of weeks, so these were my on-the-go project. I had them popped in my bag and ready to pull out when I had to sit and wait, and so they got worked up really fast, which was nice. There was one day at the appointment where I actually ran out of yarn and had finished the socks, and then was sitting there not knowing what to do. Can't just sit there and waste time. I need to sit there and crochet. But these worked out really well, and I was really happy with those. I was undecided last week about what colour I was going to make them and what yarn I was going to use. So these have been worked up using an 8-ply Australian wool. It's a Morris & Sons Estate. The colours I used were, the pink is called Dainty and the white is called Jasmine. And I think they just go together so well. Now the construction of these socks, these ones are actually worked, so they're worked in the round and they're worked from toe up. So you work in the round and work the toe, you keep going and work the foot, which isn't very long for little baby socks. These are a 6-month-old sizing. Then you work short rows for the heels. So after working in the round for the foot, you then start working these short rows back and forth on the heel until you get to a spot where you need to start the leg, and then you go back to working in the round all the way up to the top. So nice and quick and easy, and this pattern comes in, I'm not sure how many sizes, but it's from 6 months old, which is the smallest that I made, all the way up to adult sizes in men's and ladies sizes as well. So I'm considering making a matching pair so that Bub and Mum can have the same matching pair of socks, but still a bit undecided about that, so we'll wait and see. Now, I shared another tip, but I posted a tutorial up on my YouTube channel last week, just showing how you can fasten off or finish off your stitches when you're doing open stitches like this as your final row. So usually when you patterns tell you to make a slip stitch after you finish the last stitch, you usually make a slip stitch and then just fasten off and weave in your ends. And if you do it that traditional way, you're often left with the little fasten off knot kind of thing as a lump over the top there, and it just doesn't give a real even finish to the edging. So I demonstrated a method, or I had a tutorial up there on YouTube showing you how to sew it in so that it's left nice and flat and even and really uniform across the top. And that works really well on things that's the finished edge. So for the cuff on socks, for the cuff on cardigans, anything that finishes with the open stitches, it's a really quick and easy little method that maybe you'd like to try as well, just to finish off your items really well. So that's my second finished item. I feel like I'm rushing again through this, so I'll try and slow down, but it's really difficult, especially because I'm a bit nervous. I'm still nervous. I thought that the nerves would ease a little, but they've come back again this week. So I'm sorry, you'll just have to bear with me and hopefully I don't sound too crazy. What else have I been working on? Last week I showed you a ripple blanket that I was working on, and I've not touched that again in the last couple of weeks. So no progress to report on the ripple blanket. Oh, another project I was working on was I talked to you about a garland that I was going to put together. So I was making little leaves to then join together to make some type of garland. So I've been working on the leaves. So these are the little leaves here. So they don't look like much right now. In fact, they actually just look like bunny ears. I'm increasing the quantity of these that I have. So I'm trying to make lots and lots of these so that I can start sewing them together. And I've also made some flowers to go along with them. Now I'm working on a bit of an Australian theme with them. So essentially these are meant to look like gum leaves. And then I've done a couple of flowers. I'm not sure if you can see that very well there. But this is to look like a flannel flower, which is an Australian native flower that we have here. And so that's meant to look like a flannel flower. And then I was having a play with some Pom-Pom Makers. Now I sell Pom-Pom Makers here in my store, and there's about 4 different sizes that I sell, and I've used the larger sizes, but I hadn't used these tiny little ones. Now these are the Clover Pom-Pom Makers. Look how tiny it is. And it makes the cutest little pom-poms. I'll show you one that's been trimmed because I've got a few in the bag that haven't been trimmed up yet. But that's the cute little pom-pom that it makes. So I've made some pom-poms. I was sort of wanting them to look like the billy button flowers, but they can represent billy buttons or wattle. It's not realistic looking flowers, obviously, but I'm hoping that they'll go well with the leaves and that they'll go well with the flannel flowers as well. So let me see if I can hold them in my hand and show you what they look like together. That's them there. So I'm hoping to string them together somehow and make them into a garland. And if it looks any good, and if it turns out the way I'm hoping it will, I might even release these as little free patterns up on my website. So I'd love to know if you're interested in them, and whether or not it'd be worth me making them into a pattern, or maybe we should wait until I've finished the garland and then you can decide whether or not you like them. Because at the moment, just showing you little pieces isn't giving you a really good indication of what it's going to look like. I should probably take some photos of it and give you a better look, and that way you can make a decision about whether or not you like them, or if you have a suggestion for how I can put them together so that they look nice. That'd be great. Okay, what else have I got to share? I've been working on a new pattern design, so I won't show you what I've been doing with that, but that's taken a lot of my time recently. There's been lots of drawing and swatches and undoing and redoing and lots of maths to try and get my patterns, the pattern repeat to work for what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm not making much progress with it at all, but I'm going to persist because the idea I have I think is going to look really good. So I won't share that with you, but I will share another project that I started this week. Pretty sure I mentioned last week that I was looking at some Tunisian crochet patterns. So I ran a Tunisian crochet workshop again this week, or last week, sorry. And I just wanted to start a new Tunisian project because I hadn't made one for a couple of months. And so I was looking at Beanie Patterns, and I came across this one, which I cannot remember the name of now, but I'll put links down below so that you will be able to find it and see exactly what I'm talking about, because what I have to show you is not much and it doesn't really do the pattern any justice. So this is what I have started. Hopefully you can see that okay. So this is a beanie pattern and it's worked from the cuff up, so you decrease as you get to the crown section, but it starts with the larger section, the larger amount of stitches down the bottom first, and then works up. So the way this is worked is that you use a traditional or regular crochet hook and you make the ribbing, and the ribbing is short rows of single crochet in back loop only that creates a really nice ribbing. Once you've finished the ribbing to the length that you need it, you then pick up your Tunisian crochet hook and you start loading up your stitches along this edge of the ribbing. So you pick up stitches from the side and then you can start working in long rows for the rest of the beanie using Tunisian crochet. Now, I don't know if I say that right. I don't know if it's Tunisian or Tunisian. Either way, it is a crochet technique where you work with a long hook, or I'm using a crochet hook with a cable connected, which essentially is just extending the length of the hook, and you work your rows in two ways. So you work the forward pass, which is where you load up all your stitches and you end up with stitches sitting along your crochet hook, a bit like knitting. Then you work a return pass, which finishes off that stitch row, and it drops the stitches back off again until you're left with one loop on your hook. So it's a really interesting technique, and you can create lots of different stitches, and it's just really lovely once you start getting into it. Opens up a whole nother rabbit hole to explore. And yeah, so this is a Tunisian crochet pattern, and this one is actually worked using two colors or two yarns. So I've used this dark grey as the main color that I've done for the ribbing, and it's going to come through as the main color of the hat. And then I've used another yarn, which is this rainbow looking yarn here. I've used that as like the accent color that sits behind. So that's why you can see lots of different colors through there. It's actually 2 balls of yarn that I'm using, but you can see all the colors that are coming through from the rainbow. Now, when I first saw this hat pattern, I imagined it being made in the grey and the blue colour coming through as the accent. So I was imagining this one coming through with the grey. And then when I went to start the pattern, I decided, I got my yarn out and things, and I thought, look, rather than getting yarn off the shelf again and opening more balls of yarn, I'll use what I have in my stash. So I already had some of this yarn and some of the dark grey in my stash. So I thought I'll start working that up in this one. And I'm really happy with how it's working up. I'm really enjoying working with the two different colours and the way the pattern's working. But I'm still thinking about the blue, and I think the blue is going to look much nicer. So I don't know. I don't know if I should keep going and just use what yarn I have in stash, or whether I take another ball off the shelf and work in this other colour. So I don't know. Maybe you can help me decide. I have currently working with these two. Should I keep going with that? Do you think it's looking good in those two colours together? Let me hold it up again so you can have another look. Might be a bit hard. I might need to do a few more rows before you get a good idea of it. So that is the colour combination, or do I start again and use those two colours so it has the tones, the blue tones coming through? Let me know in the comments below if you which you prefer and what you think would look better. I don't know, but I'm really enjoying the pattern, and it started to work up quite quickly once I did the ribbing and then just started the main pattern the main hat design. It started to work up really quickly. So once I decide on what yarn I want to use, I don't think it'll take me long at all to work it up. So yeah, let me know. And I really don't have much more to share with you. My mind is really focused on finishing this pattern design. So I haven't really thought about starting any new projects yet. Although I have been looking around at some patterns. I want to make Cameron, my oldest son, a blanket this year for his 10th birthday. I want to gift him a nice blanket. And so we've been looking at colours together, and we've been looking at some patterns as well. So I'm just trying to get his take on what he would like, but then also pick something that's going to be interesting for me to make as well. So when I was pregnant with Cameron, so 10 years ago, over 10 years ago now, I made my very first crochet blanket, and it was a granny square blanket, and he loves that. He has slept with that blanket every day of his life so far, and he loves it to bits. But he's really excited that I've said that I'm going to make him another blanket. And when I asked him what sort of blanket he'd like, he actually wanted another granny square blanket made. And it's just a traditional granny square, nothing extra, nothing fancy, just a traditional granny square blanket. And I love that he treasures that so much, the one that he currently has, that he would just like another one like that, just in different colours. But I'd like to make him something a bit more special. My skills have come on in those 10 years quite a bit. So I'd like to do something that's, you know, a bit different. And yeah, so we were looking at, I was trying to get a gauge what sort of pattern design he would like. And so we looked through lots of different patterns, and I was getting the feeling that he liked things that had a geometric sort of look to them. So I've shown him a few mosaic crochet patterns and blankets that are worked up in mosaic crochet, and they really appealed to him. So we've worked out a bit of a colour palette to use. It's going to be mostly blues and I think some greys, but we're still yet to decide on the actual pattern. So that may be my next thing to begin, and it'd be really good to get started on something like that, so that I have something portable to take with me and work on at different appointments and things. Because at the moment, like I said, the main thing I'm working on is a pattern design, and I cannot take that out with me and try and design patterns when I'm sitting in doctor's surgeries waiting to go in. So working on some type of blanket might be good, especially because we're thinking of squares. He really liked the idea of putting squares together. So working on some little squares might be the way to go for my next portable project to carry around. So if you've got any pattern suggestions for some mosaic crochet squares or blankets, if you've made them, I'd love to hear about it. What was really great in the comments that I received last week, I think it was, people were telling me what projects they're working on, and that was really good, because that's why I created this podcast, really, is just to have some conversations with people, and just follow other people's progress as you follow mine, and we work on things together. So thanks if you've commented on the posts, or if you've liked them, or even if you've just watched. People are starting to subscribe to my channel a bit more now, so remember, if you do subscribe, you then get notified when I put up new things. So I'll hopefully put up another tutorial. I'm hoping to put up next week maybe, so I think I slowly relaxed into it this time. I'm not so nervous now, but I'm at the end of it and have nothing much more to say. Thank you for joining me and for following along to the end, even though it's probably not a very long one this week, but thanks for listening to all my blabbering on. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll chat to you again soon. Bye-bye.